Good evening, Your Excellency and Mrs. O'Neill, ladies and gentlemen. We're delighted to have you here tonight in a very cold night, in a COVID night, unfortunately, but you're here and it's wonderful. I make an apology for Fergus Keane. He's not suffering from COVID, but he can't be here because the BBC have told him he has to do something in the next few days and has had to quarantine. He gave a sincere apology to me on the phone, literally, this morning. So he's not here, but we will get on with it. The most important thing is the music, I think. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. I'd like to introduce to you, before we start now with the rest of the proceedings, to our Chairman-elect of Trustees, who's going to come out, Tom Scanlon, and just say a few words.
Thank you, Jim. Dias Moragich, agus céad míle fáilte go léir. Hello and welcome, everybody. Your Excellency, Mrs. O'Neill, our patron Mary, Lady Clancy Hatch, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to greet you all and introduce myself this evening at this delightful event. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tom Scanlon, a native of Achill Island, County Mayo. I've been a member and volunteer fundraiser of Irish Heritage for 7 years, and since 2019, a trustee and director. I'm honoured to be elected by my fellow trustees as the next chairman of Irish Heritage, which will come into effect in January coming 2022. And I proudly accept the position, albeit acknowledging the responsibility and high expectations that it entails. Irish Heritage was established in London in 1974 by Etna and Charles Kennedy with the society objective of presenting the best of Irish heritage through music, arts, drama and literature to audiences based in London. We became a registered charity with the Charity Commission 2 years ago with the charitable objectives to advance the education and appreciation of arts, music, literature, and drama of all genres of Irish heritage. Following on from Etna and Charles, there have been 4 chairpersons: Tommy Dunn, Niall Gallagher, Mary Connolly, and our current chairman, Paddy Lennon. I wish to thank all of you for the Trojan work that you have done for enhancing our charity during your time at the wheel. During my forthcoming tenure as chairman, Gounod, with the help of God, I hope to strengthen and advance the charity and leave a legacy for my successor. Any charity would struggle without their patrons. We are blessed to have 5 generous and stalwart patrons: Mary, Lady Clancy Hatch, John Gilhooly OBE, Michael and Gianni Alan Buckley, and Seamus McGarry. Thank you all for your continuing endorsement and support, and I look forward to working with you. I also wish to thank my fellow trustees, Paddy Lennon, Mary Connolly, Shirley Cully, Peter Power-Hines, and Keith Raffin. And a big shout out for Jim Kirby, who we've just met, our ubiquitous operations manager of the committee. He's our can-do man. And of course, all of our committee members and volunteers, without whom we couldn't exist on the ground. Finally, I would like to thank our artistic directors, which is a vital role in Irish heritage. Thanks to our previous directors, Katie Rowan and Jean Kelly, for setting the bar high, and to Audrey McKenna, our current inspiring artistic director, who has moved the bar even higher and put together a beautiful programme this evening for us. Unfortunately, Audrey can't be with us this evening. She's recovering from a short illness, but will be listening online. Audrey, we wish you well with a speedy recovery. Please enjoy tonight's performance and spread the word about the good work that we do to preserve our rich, unique heritage. I would now like to introduce you to our organist, Jacob Collins, who is up there in the gallery. Jacob has the enviable pleasure of playing the same organ in the same environs as the great composer George Friedrich Handel. It is now time for our first carol, which will be sung by us all. The words of all the carols are on a separate sheet that you'll have with your program. Hark the Herald angels sing.
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce you to Susie Gibbons and Katie Richardson McCrea, who will perform He Shall Feed His Flock from Handel's Messiah. Thank you, ladies.
Shall feed his flock.
I would now like to call on Jim Kirby to read for you A Child's Christmas in Wales, Part 1 by Dylan Thomas.
I'm going to read this myself, but originally we were going to be three of us. COVID again got it. I'm sorry, it's the eternal excuse. But I want you to imagine, those of you that are young enough to remember the wireless. I remember the wireless in the 50s in Cork. And that was what we had in the room, and we'd all sit around and listen to the wireless. So when Dylan Thomas wrote this, he actually read it out for the first time on the radio. I keep saying the radio, the wireless. But those of you that are even younger and who don't remember what the wireless is, just listen to Dylan Thomas's words, and this is through the words of a child. It's a child's Christmas in Wales. Listen to his words, they're wonderful. And you'll get memories, and you'll think about, doesn't matter how old or young you are, you'll get the feeling of Christmas, I hope. Excuse the accent slightly, but I'll do my best. One Christmas was so much like another in those years around the seaside town corner, now out of all sound, except the distant speaking of the voices I sometimes hear a moment before sleep. That I can remember, whether it snowed for 6 days and 6 nights when I was 12, or whether it snowed for 12 days and 12 nights when I was 6. All the Christmases roll down toward the two-tongued sea like a cold and headlong moon, bundling down the sky that was our street. And they stop at the rim of the iced-edge fish-freezing waves, and I plunge my hands in the snow and bring out whatever I can find. In goes my hand into that wool-white bell-tongued ball of holidays, resting on the rim of the carol-singing sea, and out comes Mrs. Prothero and the fireman. It was on the afternoon of Christmas Eve, and I was in Mrs. Prothero's garden, waiting for cats with her son, Jim. It was snowing. It was always snowing on Christmas. December, in my memory, is white as Lapland, though there were no reindeers, but there were cats. Patient, cold, and callous. Our hands wrapped in socks, we waited to snowball the cats. Sleeking and long as jaguars and horrible whiskered, spitting and snarling, they would slink and sidle over the white back garden walls, and the lynx-eyed hunters, Jim and I, fur-capped and moccasin trappers from Hudson Bay, off Mumbles Road, would hurl our deadly snowballs at the green of their eyes. The wise cats never appeared. We were so still, Eskimo-footed, Arctic marksmen in the muffling silence of the eternal snows, the eternal ever since Wednesday, that we never heard of Mrs. Prothero. We never heard of Mrs. Prothero's first cry from her igloo at the bottom of the garden. Or if we heard it at all, it was to us like a far-off challenge of our enemy and prey, the neighbour's polar cat. But soon the voice grew louder. "Fire!" cried Mrs. Prothero, and she beat the dinner gong. And we ran down the garden with the snowballs in our arms toward the house, and smoke indeed was pouring out of the dining room, and the gong was bumbulating, and Mrs. Prothero was announcing ruin like a town crier in Pompeii. This was better than all the cats in Wales, standing on the wall in a row. We bounded into the house, laden with snowballs, and stopped at the open door of the smoke-filled room. Something was burning all right. Perhaps it was Mr. Prothero, who always slept there after midday dinner with a newspaper over his face. But he was standing in the middle of the room saying, "A fine Christmas," and smacking at the smoke with a slipper. "Call the fire brigade," cried Mrs. Prothero as she beat the gong. "They won't be there," said Mr. Prothero. "It's Christmas." There was no fire to be seen, only clouds of smoke, and Mr. Prothero standing in the middle of them, waving his slipper as though he were conducting. "Do something," he said, and we threw our snowballs into the smoke. I think we missed Mr. Prothero and ran out of the house to the telephone box. "Let's call the police as well," Jim said, "and the ambulance. And Ernie Jenkins, he likes fires." But we only called the fire brigade, and soon the fire engine came, and 3 tall men in helmets brought a hose into the house, and Mr. Prothero got out just in time before they turned it on. Nobody could have had a noisier Christmas Eve. And when the firemen turned off the hose and was standing in the wet, smoky room, Jim's aunt, Miss Prothero, came downstairs and peered in at them. Jim and I waited very quietly to hear what she would say to them. She said the right thing always. She looked at the 3 tall firemen in their shining helmets standing among the smoke and the cinders and the dissolving snowballs, and she said, "Would you like something to read?" Thank you. That was a deliberate mistake. No, it wasn't. I'm actually going to introduce Richard. I should say, if I may, and I apologize for this because I got carried away with my own story. Richard Chaffrey is going to sing from Verdi, La Donna e Mobile. Richard.
Sing together, join together to sing Joy to the World, after which Susie will sing for you the lovely dual song from Gounod's Faust. First, Joy to the World. Please do check out all of your words. Not that it's a test, but...
Nature
I would now like to call on our ambassador, Adrian O'Neill, to do readings for us.
Thanks very much, Tom. This is probably where things go downhill, but Aisling and myself are absolutely delighted to be back here in St. George's Church for this wonderful occasion. And I want to thank all at Irish Heritage who bring us together every year to enjoy such wonderful music from such wonderfully talented performers and artists. And I think this is the fourth time I've had the opportunity and the pleasure of being here. And I have to say it's become one of the highlights of the year for me. So thank you for sticking with me over the last 4 years and inviting me back again. And I guess over those 4 years, one of the downsides is that you run out of poems, and it becomes increasingly difficult every year to kind of choose an appropriate poem with a kind of a seasonal theme. So I've chosen two tonight. growing up in Dublin in the O'Neill household, there were kind of two periods in the year of self-denial. One was Lent, of course, and then was Advent. Both were characterized by a deprivation of sweets, biscuits, and cakes, and none were allowed until Easter Sunday and Christmas Day, respectively. So there was always a great reason during the period of Advent to look forward to Christmas, both because of the presents you got, but because you were able to eat, again, sweets, etc. And I always felt that Patrick Kavanagh kind of captured that kind of spirit of deprivation. So it's with some sense of kind of perverse nostalgia that I read it this evening. Advent by Patrick Kavanagh. We have tested and tasted too much lover. Through a chink too wide there comes in no wonder. But here, in this Advent-darkened room, where the dry black bread and the sugarless tea of penance will charm back the luxury of a child's soul, we'll return to doom, the knowledge we stole but could not use. And the newness that was in every stale thing, when we looked at it as children, the spirit-shocking wonder in a black, slanting Ulster hill, or the prophetic astonishment in the tedious talking of an old fool, will awake for us and bring you and me to the yard gate to watch the whins and the bog holes, cart tracks, old stables where time begins. Oh, after Christmas, we'll have no need to go searching for the difference that sets an old phrase burning. We'll hear it in the whispered argument of a churning, or in the streets where the village boys are lurching. And we'll hear it among simple, decent men too, who barrow dung in gardens under trees, wherever life pours ordinary plenty. Won't we be rich, my love, and I, and please God, we shall not ask for reason's payment, the why of heart-breaking strangeness in dreeping hedges, nor analyze God's breath in common statement. We have thrown into the dustbin the clay-painted wages of pleasure, knowledge, and the conscious hour, and Christ comes with a January flower. I don't know exactly when Kavanagh wrote that. I suspect it was sometimes in the 1940s or 1950s. But in 1996, Paul Durcan published a long poem called Christmas Day. And this is a short excerpt from it. There are two kind of local references, which some people here may not have heard of. One is the Sunday World, which is a tabloid newspaper in Dublin, published on a Sunday. And second is Dollymount Strand, which is a beach in North Dublin. So this is a small excerpt from Christmas Day. Christmas Day I spend alone in my cave, rotating my globe, musing what it would be like to spend Christmas Day with another human being. But this year, my pal Frank invited me in the afternoon up to his top-storey flat in a new apartment block in Terranure on the Rathfarnham Road behind the Sunday World in the southern suburbs of Dublin City on the outskirts of the foothills of the Dublin Mountains. This was a simple arrangement, no complications, not like having to decide not whether to go to Mass, but which Mass to attend. Vigil Mass, night Mass, early morning Mass, day Mass. Which would it be? Which should it be? Which could it be? Horizontal in bed, I ran rings around my toes, trying to make the right choice. In the event, I solved the problem by deciding not to go to any Mass. What would Frank say, who, on an August night on Dollymount Strand, watching the sea, typing up its tidings, a hare in the headlights, delved with such perky innocence, such blue-eyed curiosity, "Are you a practicing Catholic?" that I did not squirm. I had no qualm in disclosing with gusto, yes, a practicing Catholic. I practice and practice and practice, and when I get the chance, I play. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian. That was very, very good. Our next two performances are Katie Richardson McCrea, who will sing But Who May Abide from Handel's Messiah. This then will be followed by Conal O'Neill and Richard Chaffrey singing O Mimi tu più non torni from Puccini's La Bohème.
Next, we shall do O Come All Ye Faithful, everybody involved. I would also like to just introduce our wonderful orchestra here on the left, Miss Tiffany Q, who has been accompanying us.
Thank
I would now like to call Jim Kirby back to read for you A Child's Christmas in Wales, Part 2 by Dylan Thomas.
Oh no, not him again, they say. Actually, I just wanted to say something as well, but Richard did point out that Tiffany is playing the piano there, and sometimes, you don't see. She is such an integral part of what's going on. Tiffany Q, and who has taken part in she's one of our Irish bursary winners, and sometimes when she's sitting there, you wouldn't necessarily see her, but you can certainly hear, and she's very much a part of everything. And the same goes for Jacob up there, who's got his back to me now, but I understand. Were there uncles, like in our house? There are always uncles at Christmas, the same uncles. And on Christmas morning, with dog-disturbing whistles and sugar fags, I would scour the swatched town for the news of the little world and find always a dead bird by the post office or by the white deserted swings, perhaps a robin, all but one of his fires out. Men and women wading or scooping back from chapel with taproom noses and wind-bossed cheeks, all albinos, huddles their stiff-backed jarring feathers against the irreligious snow. Mistletoe hung from the gas brackets in all the front parlours. There was sherry and walnuts and bottled beer and crackers by the dessert spoons, and cats in their furabouts watched the fires, and the high heap fire spat, all ready for the chestnuts and the mulling pokers. Some few large men sat in the front parlours without their collars, uncles almost certainly, trying their new cigars, holding them out judiciously at arm's length, returning them to their mouths, coughing, then holding them out again as though waiting for the explosion. And some few small aunts, not wanted in the kitchen, nor anywhere else for that matter, sat on the very edge of their chairs, poised and brittle, afraid to break like faded cups and saucers. Not many those mornings trod the piling streets, an old man always, fawn-bowlered, yellow-gloved, and at this time of the year, with spats of snow, would take his constitutional to the white bowling green and back. And as he would take it, wet or fire on Christmas Day or Doomsday. Sometimes two hale young men with big pipes blazing, no overcoats, and wind-blown scarfs would trudge, unspeaking, down to the forlorn sea to work up an appetite, to blow away the fumes, who knows, to walk into the waves until nothing of them was left out but two furling smoke clouds of their inextinguishable briars. Then I would be slapdashing home, the gravy smell of the dinners of others, the bird smell, the brandy, the pudding and mince, coiling up to my nostrils, when out of a snow-clogged side lane would come a boy, the spit of myself, with a ping-tipped cigarette and the violet past of a black eye, cocky as a bullfinch, leering all to himself. I hated him on sight and sound, and would be about to put my dog whistle to my lips and blow him off the face of Christmas, when suddenly he, with a violent wink, put his whistle to his lips and blew so stridently, so high, so exquisitely loud, that gobbling faces, their cheeks bulged with goose, would press against their tinselled windows, the whole length of the white echoing street. For dinner, we had turkey and blazing pudding, and after dinner, the uncles sat in front of the fire, loosened all their buttons, put their large, moist hands over their watch chains, groaned a little, and slept. Mothers, aunts and sisters scuttled to and fro bearing tureens. Auntie Bessie, who had already been frightened twice by a clockwork mouse, whimpered at the sideboard and had some elderberry wine. The dog was sick. Auntie Dosey had to have 3 aspirins. But Auntie Hannah, who liked port, stood in the middle of the snowbound backyard, singing like a big-bosomed thrush. I would throw up balloons to see how big they would blow up to, and when they burst, which they all did, the uncles jumped and rumbled. In the rich and heavy afternoon, the uncles breathing like dolphins and the snow descending, I would sit among festoons and Chinese lanterns and nibble dates and try to make a model man of war following the instructions for little engineers and produce what I mistaken for a seagoing tramcar. Always on Christmas night there was music. An uncle played fiddle, a cousin sang Cherry Ripe, and another uncle sang Drake's Drum. It was very warm in the little house. Auntie Hannah, who had got onto the parsnip wine, sang a song about bleeding hearts and death, and then another in which she said her heart was like a bird's nest, and then everybody laughed again, and then I went to bed. Looking through my bedroom window out into the moonlight and the unending smoke-colored snow, I could see the lights in the windows of all the other houses on our hill and hear the music rising from them up the long, steady falling night. I turned the gas down. I got into bed. I said some words to the close and holy darkness, and then I slept. Once again apologize. I'm now going to introduce Conal, who's smiling there and who's got that wonderful bass voice. Conal is going to sing Bellini Vivra Viso from Sonnambula. Conal O'Neill.
Il bosco è vicin la fattoria. Ravviso al luoghi ameni, in cui lieti, in cui sereni, sii tranquillo, idi passai della prima gioventù. Cari luoghi, io vi trovai, cari luoghi, io vi trovai, ma quelli non trovo più. Ravviso next, we have what I believe is an Irish heritage tradition, which is Silent Night. We'll be presenting you 3 different versions. The first, Rich will take it in Irish. The second verse will be us as a quartet singing it in German, and then you will join for verse 3 in English. Just show us, really, aren't we?
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the sort of official end of our concert. But wasn't that wonderful? You know, What I'd like to do is to just introduce you to all 6 of our wonderful singers and musicians. Katie Richardson McCrea is our alto. Susie Griffiths, our soprano. Conal O'Neill, our bass. And Conal's mom and dad are in the audience. How proud they are, eh? And Richard Shaffrey, our tenor tonight. Now, over in the far distant corner, please stand up. Tiffany Q, our wonderful pianist. And up there in the gods, certainly where he should be, is our wonderful organist, Jacob Collins. Jacob. Now this might seem like a silly question. It's not rhetorical. Would you like an encore? Yes. There we go.
Dashing through the snow in one horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. There's a hotel ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride a sleighing song tonight! Hi, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one horse open sleigh! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh!
Now the ground is white, oh, it's one your yard. Take the girls tonight and sing this sleighing song.
Just get a hotel's ring, 40 speed, and hitch it to an open sleigh, and rock will take the lead. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells of hotel ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight! Hi, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh! Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh!
Thank you so much, and thank you all of you. And I would like to say this was produced by Audrey McKenna, our, the lady that does so much putting our music together for us for these evenings. And I hope you'll look at what we have in the future. Look at our website, and do come and stick with us for the future and tell your friends. Now we're going to have some wine, some water. I've heard that before, and some mince pies. So I hope you'll, we have two stations, one on the left corner over there, and one down on the right. Oh, sorry, it's here. So please do sit around, chat. We'd love to talk with you, and we'll see you again. God bless you, and Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Thank you for coming.